in order to read this, what you basically need to understand is hi there guys, welcome back again to another video. If you don't know me, my name is Lyka and I make art and design related videos to help you in your creative journey. And yeah, as you can see from the title of this video, unfortunately I wouldn't be creating a color matching tutorial, but yeah, instead of a tutorial, I will be sharing to you 10 things I wish I knew about color matching specifically for glass painting instead. And without further ado, let's get started in the video. Okay, so for the first thing that I wish I knew about color matching on glass is that the mixture may not look the same. So what do I mean by that? So for me, for example, personally, I do like to use paint pots whenever I'm mixing colors. And on the paint pots, it seems a little bit darker than usual. And then when I try to actually use that mixture to paint it on glass, sometimes it does look lighter. So in order to combat that, what I would recommend for you to do instead is to have a scrap glass or paint on the negative space of your piece. That way you will have a more accurate sense of the colors. And speaking of accuracy, that is the second thing that I wish I knew earlier, that accuracy is very important, especially if it's an anime glass paintings, because what you're doing is you're transferring the official art into the glass. It's not a fan art or anything. So if you want it to look if you want it to look legit or like actually good, you really need to get the colors down correctly. So for the next thing that I wish I knew is to prepare a lot of paint in advance, and this is kind of connected to the shading and ombre as well, because let's say you are painting an ombre between mixture A and mixture C, and then you get a mixture B in between. Now what happens if you run out of that mixture B? Now you have to create mixture A and mixture C again from scratch, and unless you could actually pinpoint the exact same amount you use in order to achieve letter B, mixture B, it wouldn't look as consistent. And so it's very important to double the amount of what you think you will be using. If you don't create enough mixture and you are in the middle of painting something, oh my gosh, would that look a little bit different. So yeah, just stock up twice the amount you think you'll need, and especially for skin tone as well too. Okay, and so the next thing that I wish I knew would be to use paint pots. And yes, I think I did mention this point earlier in one of my previous videos as well, but yeah, it is quite connected to the previous points as well, which is to make double the amount of paint you think you'll need. With that amount of paint, it's gonna be quite a lot. And so what happens if you keep that paint in open, like just in a palette? I believe in a few hours, minutes even, it would probably dry up, and that will be the purpose of the previous point. So what you want to do is put this mixture into a paint pot instead, or even like a mini storage container. Anything as long as you could keep your paint wet and not dry. Alright, and so the next thing that I wish I knew about color matching is to be mindful of your light. Not just digitally, but physically as well. So by digitally, I mean if you are looking at a reference, make sure that your photo is not affected by any filters, maybe like a blue light or a harsh warm light, because that's the same thing that happened to me in my Kilua. The original photo seems a little bit cooler than usual. So what I did was I just bumped up the temperature to make it a little bit warmer so that it has kind of like an even neutral tone to it, and it wouldn't affect my actual glass painting. And so when I printed that reference, then it looks normal, right? But another thing is, when I printed that reference, I was working in the morning, so it was okay. The lighting was good, it was neutral. But then what happened was, like, at night, I do have some yellow lights in my room, and so that made that photo warmer again. And so what happens is it might trick your eyes into thinking that you're actually looking at let's say you're looking at a white color, but now with your lighting, it looks a little bit on the yellowish side. So you gotta be careful of that. You gotta be mindful of the lighting in your room, especially if you have like those LED, like colorful lights. Adding on to the accuracy point from a while ago would be to be mindful of the outlines. A good example of what I am talking about would be No Game No Life. As you can see from this photo right here, Sora doesn't have a black outline. What he has is a pink pinkish outline. And if you want your glass painting to look very accurate, then you should be mindful of that. It's not only the colors inside but also the outline. So if you want, you could either use a paint, an actual paint, to paint that outline, or use a paint pen that would have the similar color. And it's just not this anime, it's also for when you're doing special effects such as lightning or aura, I don't know, Nen, chakra, whatever. But yeah, be mindful of that as well to make your paintings more accurate. The next thing that I wish I knew would be to use swatches. Oh my gosh, this is a favorite of mine. I think I mentioned this in my other video as well, but if you are a beginner to color matching, this one is definitely a good tip to use. So what you do basically is you grab each color that you have in the piece that you are going to be referencing to, and then what you do is you just put those colors to the side. And then what you do is when you have these swatches, you're basically gonna try and make your mixture, and then you're gonna paint on top of it. And if it doesn't look good, like if it doesn't look accurate or the same as the swatches that you paint, then you could make some adjustments. It's a nice technique to use, especially when you're new to color matching, because at least that way you will have kind of like a guideline. Okay, and so for the next thing that I wish I knew would be isolate the colors. So this one, it kind of falls into the same category as using swatches, but I would suggest it if you're only like unsure about one or two colors. And the reason why we need to isolate the colors in a way is because the neighboring colors definitely affects the color that is next to it. If you get what I mean. Like, I've seen this illusion before. This is kind of like what I am talking about basically. Neighboring colors is affecting your color judgment. And so what I do personally is, if I am on my laptop, what I do is I just take a screenshot of the actual color I need, or even use a color picker, whichever you like. What's like, for example, what's something that looks like blue might actually be gray, or vice versa. What looks like gray is actually blue. So yeah, just isolate your colors if you want to be sure. All right, and so the next thing that I wish I knew earlier would be to look into hex codes or like color pickers. Basically, it's kind of like the same thing as isolating the color, but we're gonna be digging deeper into it and then studying the colors and how it is actually made. And so right over here, I got Adobe Photoshop open, but definitely you could try different apps as well, such as Canva or some free apps that you could find on Google maybe. And so what we're gonna do on this one basically is I'm gonna open this color picker right over here, and then I am gonna pick the color that I need to create a mixture of. And so we could see three things over here. We can read three things. First is this color spectrum right over here. Next is the distance from the true tone to the black and whites. And the next thing is the distance from the white and the black. And so in order to read this, what you basically need to understand is this colors right over here is what you need to mix it. So for example, to get this teal green right over here, we need blue and green. And so what's gonna happen is if we mix these colors together, it's gonna create this. But since this thing didn't land on the true tone, which is this one over here, it landed right over here. This means we need a little bit of the black or the white. However, since this one is down low over here, that means it is closer to the black. That means that we need to grab a little bit of the black. So to summarize, what we basically need is blue, green, and a little bit of black. So the same thing over here for the orange. As some of you might know, yellow and red makes orange, but since this particular color is a little bit more closer to the red area rather than the yellow area, we definitely need more reds than yellow. And so as you can see over here, this one is far up and it's not a true tone, meaning it's not over here. That means we need to add a little bit white or black. But since this one is closer to the white area, that means we need to add more white instead of black. And so to clarify what I'm talking about adding more white and it's not a true tone, it would be this one over here to the next one. So you can see this one's closer to the right, this one's closer to the left, which is the white area. Then we definitely needed to add more. But yeah, I hope that made sense. I might do an in-depth video tutorial about it if needed. And the last thing that I wish I knew earlier about color matching is to trust myself and my color judgment as an artist. trust your gut feeling. Definitely, if the reference or the color doesn't feel right, then don't use it. A good example would be for this Emma painting that I have over here. At the reference that I was trying to follow, the shirt and the bag actually looks exactly the same. But I thought to myself, if I painted this similarly, there wouldn't be much of a color that might differentiate them. So what I did was, instead of painting this bag the exact same color as Emma's shirt, I used kind of like a gray color instead. And so that made such a huge difference, because if I didn't do that, it would have looked like the bag was part of Emma's clothing. And yeah, basically that's it for things I wish I knew about color matching, specifically for glass. I hope you did like this video and you find something helpful with it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to my channel if you like more videos like this, and comment any questions or any tips that you have. And yeah, till next time, see you again, bye.